Alright guys, so we have tested a lot of products on this channel, so I figured today we'd kind of spice it up and we would test some products that are like old school, viral, as seen on TV products, that are kind of like some of like the juggernauts of the as seen on TV product space. First one that we're going to be testing is ShamWow. If you've seen the commercials for years, I was actually surprised that they still sell ShamWows, because I think they came out in like the early 2000s or something, and somehow they're still selling them. Every time you use it, you're supposed to say wow because they're just so great or whatever. So we're going to be testing these, see if these are worth it. Next thing we're going to be testing is the Miracle Blade. These are the Miracle Blade 3 knives. This is the entire set because I couldn't find just the specific blade I wanted to test. I believe this is the one that I want to test. Yeah. The whole set comes with like steak knives and a cheese knife and a bread knife and all kinds of different knives. But this is the one that we're going to be focusing on. They call this one the Slicer, and in the commercial, this is the one that Chef Tony does like all of the tests with. So we're going to be putting this through its paces and see if this holds up as well as the commercial says that it will. So I have a bunch of tests for this. This will be fun. And then last but not least, we're going to be testing OxiClean. This one, of course, everybody knows OxiClean. I remember this commercial for as far back as I can remember. I remember Billy Mays being on the TV whenever I was like probably 7 or 8, yelling about OxiClean and showing how great it is and all this stuff. I have some shirts and I have some stuff that we're gonna stain the shirts with, and then we're gonna wash them in OxiClean, see how well it takes the stains out and all that good stuff. We'll see how well it works. But before we do all that, this video is sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped has released a new product called the Weed Whacker Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer. I'm going to tell you a little story about it, but first let's go over some specs. This thing has a 9,000 RPM motor. It has a 360 degree cutting angle. It's water resistant, and it also has a 90-minute battery life, and it's rechargeable. I know what you're probably thinking. I don't need a nose hair trimmer. And that's what I thought until Manscaped sent this to me. Here's what was happening with me. Obviously, I have the beard, I have the mustache. Something that kept happening to me was my mustache. Every now and then, I'll get like a wild mustache hair, and I'll get a mustache hair that'll kind of curl up, and then it'll curl up into my nose, and then my nose hair and my mustache hair start flirting with each other, and it gets real like tickly, and it like makes me sneeze, and it's really annoying. So I would like be trying to pull the nose hair out with my fingers, couldn't get a hold of it. You get a set of tweezers, and you try to like pull the nose hair out, and if you've ever pulled a nose hair out with tweezers, you know you pull one nose hair out, and then your eyes are watering, your face is red, it looks like you've been bawling your eyes out forever. It's no good. They sent me this, and it takes all of that struggle and turns it into like 30 seconds. You turn it on, one side, the other side, you're good to go. So I love this thing. This is way better than tweezers or scissors or whatever else you could possibly use to try to trim your nose hairs. This takes care of it. This takes care of it quick and easy. So there will be a link in the top of my description if you want to try this out. Click on that link, and then if you use code TUBE20 at checkout, you can get 20% off of your order. And if you pick the Peak Hygiene plan at checkout, you will get replaceable blades every 3 months so that you can keep it cutting nice and clean. So again, the link at the top of my description, click on that, use code TUBE20, you can get 20% off this and everything else that Manscaped offers. Now let's start testing these products. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to test is going to be the knives. Like I said, we're really only worried about this knife, which is the Slicer, which is the one that Chef Tony abuses in the commercial. So that's the one we're going to be doing most of our testing with, but I will pull out the rest of these knives so you can get a look and you can see what all comes in the kit. You get 2 slicers, you get a paring knife, you get this thing they call a Rockin' Chef, I guess I don't know, it's got a thing and it's supposed to do chef stuff with it. Chop and scoop, that I guess you're supposed to like chop stuff up and then you can use it as like a scooper, whatever. 4 of these steak knives, a fillet knife that's supposed to be like super flexible. These 2 are more steak knives. This pair of scissors. You get a cheese knife that says cheese on it, and it's like swooped and has the cheese cut out so that the cheese doesn't like suction to the side of the blade. So as you cut it, the cheese can fall off. And then you get a carving knife. So for like like for carving like a turkey or whatever. So these are all the knives you get. But like I said, we're only worried about this one. First of all, in the commercial, they make these knives sound like they are the greatest things ever. Like they never go dull, they're perfect, they're the greatest knives that you could ever use in your entire life. But whenever you look at them, the blades are made in China, so that's strike number one. It doesn't say what type of steel the blades are made out of, but it just says that they're flash forged stainless steel, but it doesn't say like what specific type of steel. It's probably just some generic Chinese steel. Also, the entire set, all 13 knives, are I think like $33. It works out to like $2.50 per blade. I don't know about you, but whenever I think of knives, a knife that I'm paying $2.50 for, I wouldn't imagine is gonna be very good. And it's probably not gonna be very durable, and it's probably not gonna hold up that well. Let's be honest, you get what you pay for. You pay $2.50, you're gonna get a $2.50 knife. But I could be wrong. This thing could be the best knife that I've ever seen ever, but we'll see. Let's take all these. So there was a few tests that Chef Tony did in the commercial that we will be, really? Okay, so there was a few tests that Chef Tony did in the commercial. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do all of those tests, and then we're gonna abuse the knife, and then we'll come back and see how it performs on those same tests again. So the first thing that he does to prove how sharp it is and how great this knife is, the very first thing he does, I guess apparently if you can slice through a pineapple, then that means it's extremely sharp and it's a really good knife. So that's gonna be the first thing we're gonna do. And he cuts it twice. Maybe that's the key. Maybe you gotta be able to cut it twice. So. Okay. So that worked. Just like the commercial, flawless cut, even though I feel like you could probably do that with just about any knife. Second thing he does to show how sharp it is he stabs it into his cutting board there. And he said, and apparently if you can throw a tomato onto it and it slices the tomato, apparently that's another sign that a knife is really sharp. So. I'll drop that half. So no surprise there. You can throw it on there and it cuts it. Even though I don't know how that shows that a knife is extremely sharp, because I'm pretty sure that I could do that with my sword, which is kind of sharp, but not really. See, so I don't really know how that shows how sharp it is, but in classic chef form, shows how thin you can slice a tomato, which I don't know why, but apparently that's like the gold standard for how sharp a knife is. So we'll see how thin we can get this tomato sliced. Maybe a little bit too thin. I mean, that's pretty thin. I don't know if you can see through it. I can see through that. It's a very thin slice. Let's go for another one. Yeah, that's even thinner. So it will slice tomatoes very thin, for what that's worth. And then, for what it's worth, he shows it cutting paper. I don't know how he did that, because it's a serrated blade. Oh, that kind of worked. I don't know how he did the paper test. And in the commercial, he just like just sliced it real smooth. I bet the cheese knife will do it. Yeah, that was how he showed this knife cutting in the commercial. Was just cutting super smooth, just like that. I don't know how he did that, but that is not the result that I'm getting. So now let's abuse this knife and let's see if it can do all of these cuts the exact same way. Now comes the fun part. We are gonna give this knife probably like 10 years of abuse in like a couple minutes. And then we're gonna see how well it holds up. I don't think this thing is gonna fare very well. So, first thing, we're gonna use it as a saw. And this is what he does in the commercial. He does saw on a piece of wood. Although this is not cutting. Whatever type of wood he used in the commercial, it was like slicing it up really easy. So it was probably a really soft wood. This is apparently not very soft. This is really surprising at how well this thing chops. You could put, this might be like a better survival knife than a kitchen knife. I mean, that's quite a bit for a piece of wood, so let's move on to cardboard. I have a big cardboard box here. We all know that cardboard, if you use a knife a lot, you know that cardboard will dull a knife so quickly. Even razor blades, it'll dull them just in no time. So we're gonna cut up this entire cardboard box into small pieces. So it's definitely starting to get really dull. I think that's enough cardboard. So let's move on to the next thing. All right, so this is our next durability test. I have 12 cans of pop here, aluminum cans. We're gonna cut through all 12 cans. I don't know what we're gonna find out, but we'll see how it affects the blade. First cut here, we're just gonna slice through it like a tomato. Oh, this is gonna be bad. Okay, not as bad as I thought. Second one, let's try to slice it. Should work pretty good. Third, let's go top down. That actually kind of sliced open the top of it. Also, it's probably worth it to mention, in the commercial, Chef Tony says that they used to use aluminum cans as a test, but they said they were too weak. So it's kind of hard to cut through them if they don't have pressure in them. All right, let's do 4 really fast. It's in my ear again, bubbling inside my ear. All right, last 3. Here we go. Oh, come on. All right, I'm now soaked with Diet Coke. That's 12, or Diet Pepsi. That was 12 cans. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe for that, please. All right, we have one more test. Even after all that, cutting all the cans, all the cardboard, all that stuff, we still have one more test that should be the final nail in the coffin that makes this knife pretty much useless. In the commercial, Chef Tony takes this knife, and one of the claims that he makes is that he grinds it on a hammer against metal, and then he shows the shavings on a piece of paper, and then apparently even after all that, even grinding it on a hammer, it's still perfectly fine, and it cuts everything just the way it did right out of the box. I have a suspicion that the hammer that they used probably was a very soft hammer. I just don't see this thing like shaving a hammer down like they show in the commercial, but we'll see. I have the white piece of paper down so you can see any shavings that come off of it. It's definitely scratching it. Yeah, there's almost no filings. Oh, there we go. Now we've actually got a pretty good little edge going there. There's no denying that. that is a very deep groove inside of a metal hammer. There's metal filings all over the blade. There's metal filings all over this piece of paper that you can see. Get them all into one little pile. You can see all the metal filings. So either the metal came from the hammer or it came from this knife. I know you probably can't see it on camera, but I can see little tiny chips off the tips of all the little serrations. So we've definitely done significant damage to this knife. Now let's see if it can redo all the things that we've already done. Before we slice open the pineapple, obviously as you saw, that package comes with 2 of these. This is the one that we've done all the damage to. And just by feeling the one that we've done all the damage to, whenever I feel it, I can feel that it's way more dull than this brand new one. This brand new one feels like it's like razor sharp, and this one really just feels like it's a knife that's been through tons of abuse. So let's go back to the pineapple. You can see this is a new pineapple, not the old one. Let's see if we can make those 2 slices, as you would expect. So far that part of the commercial is true. Next up, let's go back to the tomato, which I'm sure will be absolutely no problem. That didn't slice right through like the other one did. Although I also didn't throw it very hard. Let's do that again. That had a lot more drag than the first time. I don't know how well you can see it, or how well you can tell. I can tell. See, that didn't even like slice very cleanly. I can tell it has a lot more drag. Let's compare that. Let's compare that to the new one that's fresh out of the box. Ow! Just poked myself. Yeah, that one's it cuts it way smoother. So we've hampered the performance of it a little bit. Let's see if we can cut those really thin slices like we were before. All right, let's see if we can get these real thin. I mean, look at that. That's really, really thin. You can see the blade right through it. Tried to go a little too thin on that one. That one's not as thin. That one, I mean, that's paper thin. I can see right through that. You can also see the blade right through that. I mean, yeah, I can feel that it's dull. You can kind of tell that it's dull. But this is the brand new one. But I mean, they're producing the same kind of cuts. The only difference is with this brand new one, whenever I'm cutting through the tomato, as I'm like cutting through it, where the blade is really sharp, it's almost like the blade is like pulling itself down through and slicing into it. Whereas with this one that's been abused, whenever I cut into it, I kind of feel like I have to maybe saw through it a little bit more, let the serrations do more of the work rather than the sharpness of the blade. But, I mean, as much as I want to sit here and hate on this thing for being cheap, it's really, really good. And it's not as bad as I thought. I mean, we cut aluminum cans with it. We grinded it on a hammer. We cut an entire box of cardboard. And it still cuts perfectly thin slices. It cuts right through the pineapple. It does everything they showed in the commercial. So, it's good. Alright, next up we have Sham Wow. A towel that is so good it's supposed to make you say wow every time you use it. I have 4, I think there's the extra large or maybe the large or whatever. So we're just going to set 3 of these to the side. I don't really see like what the big deal is. It kind of just, it almost feels like one of those, like a Scotch-Brite pad kind of. I mean, it doesn't have the greatest texture and it kind of is like the thickness of a towel. Kind of looks the exact same. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna compare it to a towel. So I'm gonna take a regular towel and just stretch that over here. And we're gonna take this, then we're gonna cut ourselves out a piece. So that way we're gonna have the ShamWow that's this size and then a towel that's this size, then we can compare them. Alright. Now we have a ShamWow and a towel, but they're the exact same size. So the first test obviously needs to be an absorbency test, because that's like the massive selling point that they say with these ShamWows is that it absorbs so much more than a towel, and it's the greatest thing ever, and you can pretty much absorb the whole ocean with one towel, and yada yada yada, all this stuff. I have a 5-gallon bucket of water down here, and I'm just gonna dip each towel into the bucket, and then I'm gonna bring each towel up. I'm just gonna dip them straight into the bucket, then bring it straight up here and wring them both out, and then dump this water into this pitcher and then weigh this pitcher, and then we'll see which one absorbed the most. And then since they are the exact same size, we'll see which one's the most absorbent. I say we go with the regular towel first. So we're just gonna dump it in here. Oh, this is gonna be quite a bit of water. I'm gonna do my best to wring as much water out of both of them as possible. That's supposedly supposed to be another advantage that the ShamWow has, is that you're supposed to be able to get you're supposed to wring water out of it way easier than a regular towel. Alright, I think that's pretty much all we're gonna get. Now this thing is still soaking wet, but we've wrung out about all the water that we can. We're gonna be measuring in grams. Okay, now our scale is zeroed out. All right, so I don't know if you can see that, 719 grams for the regular towel. Let's see about the ShamWow. Get this wet. This already looks like more. Man, this thing has a weird smell to it. Wow, you really gotta twist this thing. No matter how tight you wring it, you can still get more water out of it. Whew. After wringing it out as tight as possible, this definitely is a lot drier than this after wringing it out. But did it hold more water? So let's get our scale back up here. Zeroed out, 0 grams. I think the number to beat is 719. I mean, it beat it. It's 751 grams. I'm not very good at math. What is that, like 30-ish grams? For the exact same size, definitely more expensive. So I went and looked up the price on Amazon. The ShamWows, at least these extra large ones, are $5 a piece. And then bath towels, of course, vary, but they vary between like between $8 and $30. So this one was probably a cheaper one. Let's say this one was probably 8, maybe between 8 and 10. So the ShamWow so far is cheaper and absorbs more. And so far we're off to a very good start for the ShamWow. So let's move on to our next test. All right, now this next test, I saw this was in the commercial. This is one of those things that I saw and I knew right off the bat, there's no way that this works like this, but we're gonna try it anyway. So we're gonna use a fresh ShamWow. And what they do is they take a carpet square, they sit it down on the table, and then they take some pop. Now supposedly what they claim, they take this, they dump it on this carpet, come on, Get in there. Okay, so they dump it on the carpet, and then they lift it up and they show how it went through the carpet. They claim that all you have to do is just set this down here, and then set it down here, and then they just roll it up on the carpet. And would you look at that? In the commercial, everything is completely dry and it absorbs all of it. And then they just like reach over and then wring it out. And I mean, yeah, a little bit came out, but nothing like the commercial. That was not going to perform the way that they showed in the commercial. I am curious to see though, if this will, how hard it would be to get it to absorb everything. Oh, I didn't think that through. Oh, this is actually absorbing quite a bit. Now that's actually pretty dry. So that's not too bad. It actually works pretty good. As long as you like apply pressure to it, it does have the capability of sucking liquid up through carpet. And of course, if this is in your house, there's gonna be padding and everything underneath of it. So if you spill a drink and then you were to put this on carpet and then maybe stand on it or something, it would be able to pull the liquid up. So that is nice. Now, most of us pretty much already know how a towel is gonna perform, but we'll do it again with the towel just to keep things consistent. The towel, where you can't wring it out 100%, it's not gonna be able to absorb as much. Still wet. I think a ShamWow is better than a towel. It doesn't quite make me say wow every time I use it, but I do think that especially for something of the same size, I think a ShamWow actually is really good, and it does seem to perform better than a regular towel. Especially the big difference that I'm noticing here is that the ShamWow seems to be able to release a lot more of the water whenever you wring it out than a regular towel. So then if you just got done using it, whenever you go to use it again, you can absorb more water. So the ShamWow is much more efficient, and especially for $5, it is extremely good. So I'm impressed. And last but not least, like I said in the beginning, we have the juggernaut of the as seen on TV world, OxiClean. We're gonna see if this OxiClean really does remove stains better than just regular detergent. I have a couple t-shirts. Okay, there's 3 t-shirts. We're gonna take 2 of them. Actually, you know what? Let's do 3. Because in the OxiClean commercial, they say that you can add it to your regular detergent. So we're gonna stain these shirts, and then we're gonna do 1 just OxiClean, 1 just what I use is Gain. Normally what I use is Gain. So we'll do 1 OxiClean, 1 Gain, and then 1 as a mix. All right, Oxy there. This one's gonna be a mix. Gain. All right, we have all the shirts laid out, and I'm sure you're probably just dying to know what we're going to use to stain these shirts. 1, we already used the Sharpie, so that's kind of a stain. 2nd, we're going to use mustard. We're going to use ketchup, chocolate syrup, and then I have 2 different types of red wine, and I don't know what the differences are. Let's go with mustard first. Right there. A little right there. A little right there. Use our fingers, kind of mix that in, make some nice mustard stains. Move on to some ketchup. Yeah. Yeah, do the same thing, mix it around. And then we got chocolate syrup. Let's go right here. There we go. It almost looks like barbecue sauce whenever you start mixing it in. Now, dump some of the wine on there. I bet these things have a cork on them. It's got these stupid wrappers on them. Just by doing that with the sword, I just cracked this bottle. Okay, I did not crack this one. I might be able to get this off without a cork opener. Look at that! Right where I cracked it, I was able to just pull it right out. I wonder if I can do that same thing again. So as it turns out, I do have a corkscrew. Nice and easy. We're gonna put the bare foot on the left side of each one, And then we're going to put the oak leaf on the right side of each one. So let's just make a pretty big stain there. I'm assuming all red wine stains, right? These are slightly different shades, for what that's worth. All right, we have all of our everything on our shirts that's supposed to stain them. So in the interest of saving time, I'm just gonna run all of these through the washer, and then we'll come back whenever all of them have been washed. And like I said, I'm gonna do this one with just OxyClean, this one a mix, and then this one with just Gain. Then we'll come back and see how each one handled the stains. All right, the shirts have been washed, and the results are in, and the results are pretty surprising. Not really what I expected. So I washed the shirts in this order. I washed the OxyClean one first, then the mixed one, and then the one in Gain. It's almost like OxyClean preserves stains, at least some stains, because if you look at the OxyClean one, these two are the wine stains. Both of these are still pretty bad, and then they get a little bit better on the mix, and then you come to the one that I washed just in Gain, and the wine stains are almost completely gone. It's like the more OxyClean you use on a wine stain, the more it preserves it. And you would think that since this is the one that I washed first, I literally turned the cameras off and then threw this right in the washer, you'd think that this would be the one that would have the best chance of the stain coming out because the wine was fresh. Whereas in these two, it sat for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, however long it takes the washer to run between each one. I would have thought that if time was going to play a huge factor, that the Gain would be the worst and then this would be the best, but it's completely opposite. And also, with this being OxyClean, it's supposed to, be the best stain remover ever and all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of odd. It's literally like the more OxyClean that is used, the less of the wine stain that it removes. And it also seems to be that exact same way with the chocolate, because the OxyClean on the chocolate stain, it's like super bad. You can definitely see it. And then you come over to the mix, you can see less of it. And then you come over to the Gain, and you can almost not see it at all. Yet again, it's like the more OxyClean you use, the more of the stain it preserves. I don't know what to make of that. It doesn't make any sense. So then you go to the ketchup. And the ketchup is pretty much the same across the board. I guess ketchup doesn't leave as bad of a stain as I thought it would, because the OxyClean, the mix, and the Gain, they're all pretty much identical. There's virtually nothing. You can kind of make it out on each one a little bit if you look hard enough, but the amount of the stain that's left is all virtually the same. And then it gets really interesting whenever we look at the mustard stain, because the Gain that removed all the other stains pretty much completely fine, whenever you look at the mustard stain on the Gain, the mustard stain is the worst on the Gain. And then the second place is probably OxyClean, or I think I have that backwards. So third place is Gain, pretty much. It removed the least of the stain. Second place is the OxyClean by itself. And then first place is probably the mix. I feel like the mix probably removed most of the stain. The mix and the OxyClean, they could be tied, but at least to my eyes, it looks like the mix removed most of it. So I don't really know what to make of this. I've seen commercials for OxyClean for like 15 years now, and they always show how great it is and how amazing, and they obviously sell plenty of it because they're still selling it, so they're not out of business. So somebody's buying it. But at least from these results here, I don't really see what the benefit is. I mean, obviously if you have a wine stain or a chocolate stain, you don't want OxyClean, you want Gain. And you don't even want to mix. As much as I want to love OxyClean because, it's like the juggernaut of the as seen on TV world, and Billy Mays promoted it forever and all that stuff, I just can't. It clearly didn't do its job, and it clearly didn't do what it was advertised to do. OxyClean's not what it's all cracked up to be. That's all I have for you guys today. If there's any other products that you want to see me test, leave a comment down below. If you're interested in gaming, I have a gaming channel. Link will be in the description. I also have a podcast, and the link will be in the description for that as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.